Hello and welcome back to the another episode of the Hindu News Analysis. Well, the date is 7th August 2025 and in this video we are going to discuss some of the important articles which could be relevant for your preparation. But before we will start our discussion, I would like to give the brief introduction about the initiative which we had started here from 2nd June 2025. So what is this initiative about? The name of the initiative is Target IAS 2026. Under this initiative, we had promised you that we'll every day upload two videos. One in the morning session, which is this video where we will take care of your current affairs. What we will do, we'll take up the most important articles from the newspapers. We'll break them down. We'll try to relate these articles with your prelims as well as mains preparation. And one in the evening session, where what we will do, there we will discuss the static syllabus of yours. And here we started with Indian polity, which we had already completed, which took us 30 lectures. Then we took up the governance part, and yesterday we completed it in 11 lectures. And from Monday, the coming Monday, we are going to start the ancient history. We are going to start the ancient history of your portion. So, and here also one more thing I would like to add, that we had promised you that by the month of January 2026, we are going to complete your full syllabus, whatever would be required to clear, whatever the subjects would be, we will try to cover everything. But the only exception is that we are not going to cover your optional subjects. We will not cover the optional subjects, rest we will cover everything. And one more thing, as I told you on the first day, that while we are delivering these lectures, at the same time we are preparing your notes, and those notes would be available once every subject we will complete. And there is one thing which I want to mention here, that as we had completed Indian polity and governance, now we also had completed its comprehensive book by Salvation IAS. So this book is available now. If you want to get access to it, please do mail us. It would be, for that you will have to mail us, and you would be told to pay 200 rupees only for this book. This book is very comprehensively written. In this book, we had brought every topic we had discussed there. We had brought various prelims questions with respect to those topics, and as well as the mains questions, so that it will give you the comprehensive approach, what you have to do, what is required for you to clear the exam. So that's what I can say. If you want to get access to this book, please do mail us, and we will definitely respond to it and provide you the specific book and help you in your preparation. So this is about the initiative. If you want to be the part of it, please do subscribe the channel, do share it with your friends so that they may also get benefited from it, and please do write in the comments what else should we bring for you guys. Now without any delay, let us start our discussion. The topic here is something which is very much relevant for your preparation. As the name suggests, as the article here says, that more women than men deleted from the Bihar's electoral rolls. So it is very much important, because women's issue is one of the key part of your syllabus, and it is often asked in the exams, whether it would be mains exam. Often questions would revolve around it, about their rights, about how we can empower the woman. And with respect to that, all that discussion, it is very much necessary for your preparation. But here, let's try to understand the article. Let's try to find out the key findings in this article, and let's try to analyze that. We discussed the electoral roll process. We discussed the need for the, what was the need for this electoral roll revision. We had discussed it in a great detail, and we had discussed every aspect of it, because it was in the news from last 2 months. From June itself it was in the news, and we had discussed everything with respect to it, why it was the need of the hour, why there is criticism against it. We discussed all that, and what judiciary stated about it, we also discussed that. Now it has been done, now it has been done, the results are over with respect to the electoral roll revisions. Now let's see what are the key findings about it, especially with respect to women. As the article highlights here, that in this electoral roll revision, there is huge mismatch with respect to the gender disparity. There is huge mismatch. It states that the woman voters in the electoral roll in the electoral roll, who lost their place in the electoral roll, who could not find their place in the electoral roll, or who were removed from the electoral roll, or way too higher than the men. It is saying, according to the article, approximately 31 lakh women deleted. According to this article, 31 lakh women were deleted. And if we look at the men, how many men were deleted? It is 25 lakh men. So 25 lakh men were deleted. So this is the number with respect to the women. 31 lakh women were deleted from 37 districts, and this is very much similar. This approach is very much similar in 37 districts of the total 38 districts of the Bihar. So it shows that the woman, the names of the woman moving, taken out from the electoral rolls is very much evident, and it is very much there. So what are the reasons for that? If we look at why they lost their names from the electoral rolls, and what could be the reasons for that, which we can understand. The major reason is that migration of women. Is it so? Migration, out migration from Bihar, Can it be the reason? And reports are very much clear with respect to the migration. It is not the women who migrate, but it is the men. It is the men who migrate. So according to this phenomena, according to this rule, it should have been men who should have lost much, who should have lost their place in the electoral rolls rather than women in such numbers. But it is showing that women had lost this number. And this second reason, if we look at life expectancy, is it so? Do women live longer than the men? And with respect to this, there are categorical research in the present time that how once they attain certain age, once the humans attain certain age, it is very much evident that a woman is there to live for much years as compared to men. So their life expectancy is much higher than those of the men. So the conditions, the data does not support this. If we look at the data, if we look at the numbers, the woman voters had lost their names from the electoral rolls, and the data which we have, by which we could have assumed that is because of it they had lost their names, is not in line. It is not in line. Then what can be the another reason? What can be the reason why they had lost so much names? And the article here finds out this could be the possible reason. What is this? According to the article, it says that if we look at the education level of our women in India, right now we are discussing with respect to Bihar, the literacy rate of women, it is approximately the literacy rate is very low in the woman with respect to women in Bihar. And according to the data, the female literacy rate in Bihar is 55%. Female literacy in Bihar is 55%. So this female literacy in Bihar is 55%, and the way this exercise was conducted, the way the whole burden was on the person to prove that he is the domicile of this place, he had attained a certain age, he has all these documents, it was all on the person who has to vote, it was on the voter. So because of that, maybe these many women who they did not understood the process, and they were not able to get their name enrolled on this electoral roll. So this is the logical conclusion which we can draw, that it is the lack of education. Because of the lack of education, the women were not able to understand the process, and they were not able to do it on the time, and also the time period in which the electoral roll, the intensive revision was conducted. And because of these reasons, it is very much viable that these women were not able to find their name on the electoral roll. And this process eventually, maybe the intentions of the government were very much clear, that they wanted to avoid the duplication, they wanted to avoid the fake voters, they wanted to remove those who had died. The intentions were very much clear from the government, but from the election commission. But if we look at it, the things what had happened, it had led to the disfranchisement of the woman. What it has led to? It had led to the disfranchisement of the woman. So this is what this article here talks about. I hope you would have understood it. these are the issues with respect to the with respect to the electoral roll region in Bihar. The women, they had lost their names, their names got deleted as compared to men. It is very high, the numbers are very high. And what could be the reason? Migration can't be the reason. Deaths, they can't be the reason. The only logical sense which we can make here is that it is because of the it is because of the female literacy rate there. They could have not understood the process and they were not able to enroll on the time. Maybe they might not be having the documents, and it shows that how we are empowering our women. We are not providing them, how child is still seen as a burden for the families, how they are not giving so much respect to the girl child. Once she is born, they don't care about her birth certificates and all that. It is the social dilemma also, which can it is the social concept also here, which can be which can also be the reason for that. So with this, I hope you had understood the article. Now let's see what kind of question can the UPSC examiner frame from this article. So let's have a look at it. Here the question says, with reference to the electoral roll process in India, which of the following are the grounds for the deletion of a voter's name from the electoral rolls? First, death of the elector, correct. Permanent out migration from the constituency, that's also true. Duplicate entry in multiple locations, that's also true. Literacy level below a specified threshold, this is totally incorrect. So with respect to this question, what are the correct statements? Correct statements are statement 1, statement 2 and statement 3, and from the code given below, the correct code would be option A. With this, let's move to the another article and let's try to discuss that. So this article, it is written by Mr. Shashi Tharoor, very good in English, and you could see it from the article. It was very hard to understand. So what does this article talk about? It talks about the decoding China, the lessons for a vulnerable India. So what does this article talk about? The article here highlights the points which China is doing with respect to its labors in India. So what it is about, recently China has withdrawn over 300 Chinese engineers from Pencon's iPhone manufacturing facility. What China has done? Withdrawn of over 300 Chinese engineers from Pencon's iPhone manufacturing facilities in India. So China has done this. They had withdrawn over 300 Chinese engineers from Pencon's iPhone manufacturing facilities in India. So what it is, now we have to analyze this, why they did so. What could be the reasons for that? For some, it might be a simple corporate decision. It might be a simple company decision, or we can say corporate decision, that they did not, they wanted to cut these laborers, they wanted to get them back because they need them there. But for the thinkers, for the experts, it's not a simple corporate decision, but it is a geo-economic strategy which the China is implying. What is it? It is the geo-economic strategy. Why China is implying that? It is the China's geo-economic strategy. So what is this geo-economic strategy here? What China is trying to do with respect to this? And for that we have to understand few things. If we look at the China, China as a country, if we look at their manufacturing sector, they have done great in that. They have the they have the great, they have the critical, they are the hub for the critical minerals exports. They are the hub for the manufacturing. They had huge potential. But at the same time, they are excessive production. They have the excessive. The China has the excessive production capacity, and at the same time, when they have this excessive production capacity, at the same time they have the aging population. At the same time, they have the aging population, and their whole economy is highly dependent on the exports. Their economy is highly dependent on the exports. This aging population is highly dependent on the exports. So let's understand the chronology. The first thing, China's internal issues. With respect to China, they are highly dependent on the exports. Their economy is highly dependent on the exports. First, they have the aging population. Third, what they have the excessive production capacity. When they have all these three, now it is not logical to understand why they are withdrawing their engineers from India, and why they are restricting their, why they are restricting these critical mineral exports to India. For that, it is very much relevant. China has always adopted this one Asia policy, where there would be a one supreme lead power in Asia, and that is China. And China sees that India has this potential, that it can threaten this position, and that is the reason China is withdrawing its labors from India. China is restricting its exports. But at the same time, if we look at the India, as the articles, this title itself suggests that we are very much vulnerable. First of all, we are highly dependent on the Chinese exports. We are highly dependent on what we are highly dependent on their exports with respect to raw material, with respect to the finished goods. We are highly dependent on them, and at the same time, what is the issue here, that we have our manufacturing sector is not that great. We lack the critical minerals, we lack in the manufacturing sector. We had not achieved that, we are not at that level. We cannot be compared with China, with China's manufacturing sector. We lack technology there, we lack various aspects there, we lack skilled laborers there, and various other things. So with respect that, we were getting skilled laborers from China, and China sees this India's potential, that India has this much population, they have the huge consumption, and it can threaten the China's one Asia rule. So one Asia power. So what it does, it is in a way restricting its exports to India, so that India will not get this edge. So it in a way keep India on the check. So this is what this article is about. And then finally the article talks about it is prime time for India to realize that we need to be, we need to have this strategic autonomy. We need to invest much in the manufacturing sector, and we need to move away from this, this dependence on other countries. Right now the situation, like the tariffs from USA and this China's approach towards India, it is prime time for India to rethink about its strategic autonomy, and bring up the various policies and bring up the new roadmap with respect to manufacturing, so that we in the coming years, maybe 10 years, 20 years or 30 years, we would be very much relevant as the China is right now, as the US is right now, so that we will not be that much dependent on these countries. So this is what the article here highlights. Now let's move to the another article. Let's try to find out what is given here. Well, this article is about the sleeping disaster. Unfortunately, this disaster, which we saw in Uttarkashi, Uttarakhand, this article in a way criticizes the government or the authorities, that once there is such disaster, flash floods, you would have seen the videos from the internet, how disastrous it was, and how many people died because of that, the destruction with respect to the property. And you would have seen one specific thing on in these videos, that if this was the place how these floods were coming on, and it is the hilly region here, and you would have seen infrastructure here you would have seen those infrastructure, those buildings which are built on these hilly terrains. And because of these floods, it was easy for the floods to take these buildings with them. So it led to this wide destruction. So what does this article highlight? That it is easy for the authorities, whenever such disasters happen, they can say that it was a flash flood, and it was not something which could have controlled, and the disaster was due. But here the author says that the author of this article, the article highlights that it is what the government is, what the authorities are trying to do. They are trying to save themselves from their duties. Actually their duty should have been, according to the article, they should have first stopped such infrastructure on the hilly terrain. If you look at the hilly terrain in this region, it is prone to such disasters. There would be the loose soil would be there. These buildings, it could lead, when such buildings are developed there, when such infrastructure is developed there, it is definitely giving a way for such disasters. And when such disasters happen, it could have been avoided if the officials, if the government would had came if they would had proactively worked on it, definitely it could have stopped. But the loss of life should have been stopped. The loss of infrastructure should have been stopped if such buildings would have not been, established there. But unfortunately, now it has happened. Now, what government, what the, what the authorities are saying that it was the flash flood. So they are actually what they are putting blind eye on the climate change. They are putting blind eye on the 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 tolerance level of these hilly regions, how the infrastructure is built on that, and there what is the capability of those infrastructures there. So now finally there is this disaster has been there. So what can be the approach of the government, or can we say that is there any law which deals with such disasters? For that we have the Disaster Management Act of 2005. Disaster Management Act of 2005. What does this Disaster Management Act of 2005? It is the main law, which deals with all kinds of the disasters, whether it would be the natural or whether it would be the man-made disaster. This law deals with all kinds of disasters, and it created a structural system. This law created a structural system to manage disasters of the national, state, and district level. So it created the law, established the National Disaster Management Authority, headed by the Prime Minister. Below the National Disaster Management Authority, there would be the State Disaster Management Authority and the District Disaster Management Authority. What would be the work of these? Its work would be included as it would be first, it has to prevent the disaster if possible, prevent the disaster. Second, there should be the preparedness. If any area is there where the disasters are often, then there should be the preparedness from the disaster management authorities, from the National Disaster Management Authority or the State Disaster Management Authority or the District Disaster Management Authority. Preparedness should be there. Then mitigation should be there. If the disaster happens, then there should be the response, timely response. Relocation should be there, and then finally the reconstruction. These are some of the functions of these authorities. Once there some functions are before the disaster, how they can prevent it, what should be the preparedness and what should be the mitigation, and some are the post disaster, what can be the response to it, and how the reconstruction and relocation can be done. So this is what this article is about, and few of the with respect to Disaster Management Act of 2005, it was something extra from the article. With this, I hope you had got the holistic understanding of this article. With this, let's move to the another slide and see what kind of question can be asked. Here the question says, consider the following statements regarding the phenomenon of cloud bursts. First, a cloud burst is defined by the meteorological department as rainfall at least 10 centimeter in an hour over a 10 square kilometer area. That's true. Second, the frequency of cloud bursts is believed to be increasing globally due to climate change. That's also true. Due to the complex terrain, monitoring and predicting cloud bursts in the mountainous regions is often challenging. That's also true. So with respect to this question, all the three statements are correct. So with this, let's move to the another article here. Let's see what it is about. Well, this article is about the judicial overreach. Judicial overreach. In our constitution, it is very much clear that there would be the separation of power. There would be the separation of power. There would be the executive who would be drawn from the legislature. Let's suppose they are the one, and there would be the judiciary. And even though executive is drawn from the legislature, but they are always responsible to the legislature. The executive is responsible to the legislature, and they would be checked, both would be checked by the judiciary, and they would intercheck each other. So there would be separation of the powers. They have the certain functions, they have certain functions, and judiciary has certain functions, and they are very well enshrined in the constitution. And at the same time, when they have the separation of powers, at the same time there are checks and balances. They will check and balance each other. But recently, what we had seen the trends of the judicial overreach. What is this judicial overreach? Going beyond its scope. Ideally, what should have been the function of judiciary? The ideal function of the judiciary is to look at the provisions of the constitution, and look and to judge whether things are going in line with the constitution or not. This is ideally to interpret the constitution. The function of the judiciary, ideally, is to interpret the constitution. But recently we are seeing that it is going out of its scope. For example, if we can highlight the cases, if we can highlight the cases here, that the recent most case which is here in the article is about the Rahul Gandhi's statement with respect to Galwan clashes. Galwan clashes. Here the Rahul Gandhi, he has in a way questioned the government about the Galwan clashes. What was, is there any intrusion from the China? Did we lost any land? And what is the status with respect to that? And to which, ideally the judiciary should have stayed silent, but the judiciary came in the Supreme Court. It gave the oral, it gave an oral recommendation, we can say, oral observation, we can say, that the Rahul Gandhi should have not said so. He should trust the national narrative, the government's national narrative, rather than questioning like that. And in a way, if he is questioning like that and he is not accepting the nation's the national narrative of the government, that then a good Indian would accept that. A good Indian will accept the a true Indian will accept the government's national narrative. But here is the question. First of all, it is not the domain of the judiciary to interfere in it. It is the prime example of the judicial overreach. But the second thing, if we are not if we cannot ask questions to the government, then what kind of democracy it is? This is the greatness of our democracy is that we can ask any question to the government. We can, there we have the Article 19, which gives us the right that we can say whatever we want. We can ask for the information. So we have this, we can ask such questions. And if it is restricted in a way that you are asking questions on the citizenship, on the true nature of the citizenship of that particular person, then definitely it is the prime example of the overreach according to this article. So this is what this article is about. And here the article has highlighted that you cannot, the courts should not check, whether you are the true citizen or not. Well, courts can do that, but the context is different here. So here I hope you had understood the question, you had understood the article. Now let's move to the question. What kind of question can be asked from this article? Here the question says, consider the following statements regarding the fundamental rights to the freedom of speech and expression in India. The right to freedom of speech and expression is absolute. No, it is not absolute. It has definitely restrictions. We had discussed that in great detail in Indian polity. Second, the Constitution of India allows the reasonable restrictions on the rights on grounds of sovereignty and integrity. This is one of the grounds that is true. Third, the right to freedom of the press is explicitly mentioned as a fundamental right under Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution. So this is also true. So with respect to this question, the correct statements are statement 2 and statement 3. So with this, the correct option is option C. With this, let's move to the last article of today's discussion. Well, this article is about the potential of biochar. The potential of biochar. Well, this is very important article. Let's try to understand what this biochar is. In this article, it explains the biochar, a type of charcoal made from agriculture and organic waste. This biochar, it is a type of charcoal made from agricultural and organic waste. And this biochar, it is, as we understood, it is a type of charcoal made from agriculture and organic waste, so it would have huge potential. Now let's see what is its potential. First, it will help in combating climate change. It can be the alternate fuel. It will help India to meet its development goals, reduce greenhouse gas emissions development goals, and it can generate products like the syngas and the bio oil. It can generate products like syngas and bio oil, which can be used to produce electricity and fuels. And also the article also highlights that this biochar, it also have diverse applications from improving soil health and wastewater treatment. It can be used in the soil health management and the wastewater treatment. It can be used there, and it can serve as a low carbon alternative in the construction sector. It can serve as the low carbon alternative in the construction sector. So despite the article finally says that despite there are these advantages to the biochar, but unfortunately it is very much underrated, underrepresented because in the carbon credit systems, because there is a lack of standardization, and also there is no policy support to the biochar. So this is what this article in nutshell talks about. It talks about what biochar is. It talks about its potential functions, its potential uses, and it talks about the lack of standardization and policy support with respect to the biochar. So with this, I hope you had understood the article. Now let's solve the question here. Here the question says, with reference to the biochar, consider the following statements. First, it is a carbon-rich material produced from biomass through a process called pyrolysis. True. It can improve soil health by increasing water retention and reducing nitrous oxide emissions. That is also true. Its byproducts such as syngas and bioil can be used as a source of energy. That is also true. So with respect to this question, all the three statements are correct. With this, we had completed our today's discussion. I hope you would have liked the video. I hope you would share it with your friends, and I definitely hope you would subscribe the channel. And I hope that you will definitely look into my book which we had prepared for you guys, and that should be really helpful for you. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.